All right, welcome to day one of the 30-day hackathon that's hosted by Fractal. Who is Fractal? Fractal is a marketplace for trading gaming NFTs on the Solana blockchain. That's the present status. They're also going to be expanding out to other chains, i.e. Ethereum, maybe Polygon, who knows. This particular hackathon is to encourage developers to create utility, overlays, websites, anything that integrates in with the Fractal ecosystem or games that utilizes the Fractal NFTs that have been created. So in this instance, it's a 100 Solana reward that is going to be out for this first round of hackathons. Hopefully there's multiple. That'd be pretty cool. For this particular hackathon, I'm going to be working with the community for a bit of fun, but primarily it's my daughter and I. She's a 9-year-old. She loves drawing. She's using a wacom, hand drawing each of the assets in. So to give an update on what I managed to do on my day one, we actually focused on multiplayer implementation. So this game, it started off with me just the prototype, chucking in a placeholder from the asset store, Unity asset store, literally grabbing a 3D polygon world, chucking it in here, grabbing my daughter's asset, placing it on the world, working out some scripts that will indicate where does the player start relative to the center of the planet. Similarly with all these airdrops. Now, in regards to multiplayer, this is something that I've done for the first time. This is the first time I've ever come with multiplayer. My background is actually 10 years ago, I studied accounting at university. 2, went straight into SAP implementations for a company called Bridgestone Australia for a few years as a graduate. Then went on to a company in Australia called Woolworths, which is like our local grocery chain. And all of my roles have been around finance, systems analysis, SQL queries, report design in the finance space. And then I went on to work with Services Australia in, once again, an SAP software implementation around payments and debt deliveries. A lot of code debugging, testing, in the software development teams, essentially. And now I'm trying to grab some of that coding experience, that debugging experience, and that passion for game dev that I've been in and out of game dev over the last 6 years. That I've always wanted to do it, but it's been a side hustle. And I've also had a business that I started 6 years ago called Archery Attack. We manufacture bows, we don't manufacture the foam arrows, we buy and resell them, but you may have seen it. Arrow tag is the activity. That's kept us really busy. We had some really strong points there. So we had some really downsides. We had like a lawsuit with a competitor trying to take us out of the market. That slowed me down. We had a indoor sports center all about arrow tag, be locked up for 12 to 16 months over the last 2 years in Melbourne, Australia due to COVID. Recently, now I'm trying to dedicate a full month just to, get out of all of that for a little bit, keep the business going, try and recover that Melbourne arena business, keep paying staff, keep growing that, but mentally just trying to get into a different space. I've really wanted to try out some game dev and see how we go. So let's have a quick chat, a quick update about our multiplayer development now that you know a little bit of the background. Just before I move on, Fractal. Fractal was founded by Justin Kahn, the co-founder of Twitch, David Wirtz, the co-founder of Google Drive for the last 10 years, Mike Angle, who's been the chief operating officer over here in Australia for a company called Culture Kings, which is quite huge over here. And he's doing all the web development work. And then also Robin Chan, like a famous investor across many different large companies. So it's a four-team founder group for the Fractal Gaming NFT marketplace. So my game, my day one, my submission, the concept behind this game is very similar to Agar.io. We have fractals that are growing as you go around an Earth. Nothing here is looking concrete. This is all just development prototype. Everything is going to be rapidly changing. As the player moves around the planet, they are getting larger and larger and larger. In this instance, this player is going to get obscenely large. My view on the left is the game view. It's just all cropped in because I'm in the zoomed in editor, so you can see on video. I can move around the planet and the fractal will get larger. Now, this was the initial just prototype playing around, seeing how things work. I definitely have some changes I'd like to make in the future. We've obviously got a 2D sprite, which is looking pretty funny, a flat plane 2D sprite around a planet. So at one point in the future, I do need to, if we're going to allow fractals to get this large, to say consume, I don't know, a third of the Earth, I do need to have some sort of a gravity wrapping implementation whereby the sprite is curving around the planet. It can't just be perfectly straight. It just doesn't look right. But nonetheless, the concept here is that we have the fractals going around, getting larger, and it's going to be a multiplayer game. So there'll be multiple fractals all around this planet. Planet will probably be bigger, and your concept is like global domination. I believe the game is going to be running in perpetuity, that to actually win is to just simply get to the first place, and I'm going to work out a winning metric. But in theory, people can join the game at any time. So there'll always be, say, like 100 players on the map. And if you start off at the very bottom, your goal is obviously to get to the top. Reward mechanisms, not sure just yet. This is stuff I'm going to work out with the community. It's all going to be community driven. I'd love to have everyone, submit ideas, and I'd love to have everyone vote on ideas, so we can try and just go, this is community driven. I'm obviously doing the development side of things. That works in my life at the moment. I have a family of 3 kids, 2-year-old, 6-year-old, 9-year-old. I just like developing when I can fit it in. I'm over here in Australia. I'm happy to casually catch up with people. But as far as being in the development team, like I come from a background with, hundreds of developers, and things take time. You have to constantly talk to each other, analysts, business members, and everything's quite slow. I'm keen to try this agile approach where I'm just running in solo, just coding, and I don't need to get verification from different team members before I can implement different features. It's just go. We've got 30 days. Let's see what we can hack. Hack. It's a hackathon. So what I managed to achieve yesterday, so all this was, maybe 6 hours of just basic implementations, the single player feature, but yesterday was all about trying to work out multiplayer. I've never used multiplayer before. So I've been using the Photon Unity Networking framework. So Photon's a third-party company that developed a networking package on the Unity engine. So I've been trying to read through their tutorials, read through their documentation to understand how it all hangs together. So quickly going over that, let's see if I can briefly explain that. So if I click play, the way my game starts is there's a loading screen. Yes, it's very ugly. It's a placeholder. On the loading screen, I have a game object, which is called a network manager. I can call it whatever I like in theory. That network manager over in the inspector over here, we can see has a script attached to it. So this script, I'm opening up the script now. It's called the launcher script. This is where I need to indicate the game version. So this helps me isolate game versions from, obviously, whenever I've changed code. If I have a official release that everyone's playing on, it's in a web browser. If everyone's playing on game version 1, and I start to implement all these code changes and buffs and tweaks here and there, and I join in, I'm on version 2, but I haven't changed the version number. In theory, I would be able to join into the game, and my client would have a different version of the truth than everyone else. So everyone else might think that my character is only worth 100 points and they can eat me, and I've got some crazy buff and I've got 300 points, and my client's saying, no, I can eat you. We might end up eating each other, and they die on my client, I die on their client, and we have all these sort of weird bugs going on. So in theory, the game version needs to be updated every time I have a reiteration of code to make sure we're all in the same version of the truth, to make sure the gaming experience is not buggy and is fair for each and every person. I'm not familiar with all of these different methods, still learning, but avoid awake will turn on whenever the game starts, essentially. So this will be the first thing that is initialized. Photon network automatically sync scene. So this makes sure we use Photon load level on the master client and all the clients in the same room to sync their level automatically. So it sounds like the master client, the first person to create the game, to create the room, will dictate what level we're on if we had multiple levels. That we're going to be, as the game turns on, we also have this start function that's in Unity that will also run connect. Connect is a function that is being defined below, where we've got some, don't necessarily need debugging here. I'll comment that out, but that would be putting into my console debug log information about the connections that are available, i.e. It might be scanning all the different servers to check my pings. Then we've got a question here saying, are we connected to the Photon network? Photon network being the servers that will govern the networking protocol. Well, that will connect master clients to all the different players. And it says, if we are connected, let's put a message out to console. That's what debug log is. It lets me see information about we've joined a room. Okay, if we are connected, join random room. Cool. Okay, so in this instance, we're joining the lobby. So it's just literally connecting us to the Photon server, joining a room. This room is where we're going to actually choose the gaming room. A little bit confusing. Still conceptualizing this part. But it's saying if we are connected, we're going to join the lobby. If we're not connected, then we need to connect to the Photon network, and we need to pass through information pertaining to our game version. So when we've connected to the Photon network, we will be then joining the lobby room. And then by joining the lobby, on join lobby, we're going to be changing our scene. The lobby is essentially the loading page where you would be putting your name, choosing your fractal, and clicking enter game. Let's step through to that next scene. Open scenes, lobby. So let's imagine that we just ran the launcher script. It's going to project us over to the lobby once we've connected to the Photon network, the multiplayer network. We would then be presented with this screen. This isn't, once again, how it's going to look for a user. It's for test purposes that we can create a multiplayer room and have someone else join it explicitly. Whereas this would be automated in the future, that you would just click play and you get thrown into a random room. Potentially, I could have something like this if we wanted to host particular matches where you could, rather than be automatically joined in with people based on maybe a rank, you could organize to play with friends, or we could have a competition or something. Who knows? We'll see how far this goes. This is just a fun prototype. So on this screen, what's happening is we have this script called create and join rooms that I have created. It's not a template per se. And this script is connected to these buttons. So if you click join room, it will call on a function that is within these scripts. And if you input this text will be passed into this script. So if I open up this script, we have a public variable that is defined. This variable here, this is the type of that variable. So public means we can see it within the game editor over here. And it also means that we can access it from other scripts. So public variable, this is the type. TMP is Text Mesh Pro. It's a package within Unity. That's all you need to know. We have to just reference TMP input field when we're using these text buttons here that are UI Text Mesh Pro. They're just a higher quality, more versatile text box solution than the old Unity standard text input field, which was a type of just input field. All right, and I've called that create input. And then we have another one that's allowing us to bring that text into this script. So let's say I called the game is called Chris123. Now we would have a create input. This variable would have the name Chris123 when the program starts to hop down through the code. So the first thing the code is going to do is call on this function here. Get this correct. Let's go back up. Okay, so we're going to be creating a room. So if calling on the Photon Network framework to create a room, we're going to be passing in the information of the user information, so Chris123, and the text of that. We're going to be creating, and then we need to pass in information in regards to the room options. The only information we're currently passing in, and I'm sure there's more information that I don't know of all the different attributes that I can pass in. Right now, I'm just putting in a max player count of 16. Once we've created that room, we're going to be joining that room. In this instance, actually, because the player, when they click the create room button, it will actually only run this function. And then, so this here is only if you join a room, but when you create a room, it will automatically in the Photon network join that same room that you've created. And once we have joined the room, so this is like a callback where once Photon network has told us that we have joined the room, we're saying, please also run this line of code. So we're asking Photon network, can we please load another level, which will then take our player to the level. And this is where I had some issues yesterday and we weren't able to join each other's games. And it had something to do with servers that one player was automatically being sent to, say, Asia, one player was Australia, one player was America. So we couldn't find each other's games. So I need to work out the regionalization side of this further. I've got some reading to do, some testing to do. But that's for my own research outside of stream. And this here was me to try and capture the error event. So on join room failed, return us the message. So this information here, I only know this from reading through the Photon Unity documentation. I don't just know this out of programming. It's all about understanding the packages and tools that you're implementing, so you can know what information you need to pass in. So this particular error handler on join room failed is going to be returning 2 bits of information to us. It's going to have an error code, which is a short error code, and then it's going to have a string, so it could be a long message. And then we need to dictate what we're going to be doing with that message. Okay, so we're going to be writing this out to console. So we're going to write the message and we're going to write the return code. We're also going to put a statement in, a simple text statement. Debug.log goes out to my console, failed to join game. Okay, so when the player loads the game, the first screen they will see is, yes, this loading screen. Once they're connected to the Photon Unity network, we're in the lobby, creating a game, ABC, whatever the number is, click the create room button, and then we're presented with the game. Player at the moment is spawning on the other side of the planet because as I've been implementing the network features, I have to remove the players from a single player perspective out of the scene, turn them into something called a prefab, so a prefabricated player, a player that has all of the scripts allocated to it and it's just sitting in my asset library. We need to have the code, the networking code, call on that prepared player, that fractal, depending on, quad fractal, pentafractal, red, purple, yellow, whatever the color fractal is, whatever the attributes are. We need to have the networking script read that information and place that player randomly on the planet. So at the moment, it's placing the player on the other side of the planet, opposite to wherever our camera is. So I'm just clicking on the scene and just pressing the WASD keys to walk the player over. My camera is presently not following the player because I haven't made the camera relevant to the position of the network player yet. I've got a fair bit of work to do there. But that's pretty much where we've got to. We've implemented that we can actually have multiple people joining the same game presently. So if I load up now my build, one of my test builds. Oh, gee, what did I actually call it? So here's my logs that are spamming through very, very quickly. I probably need to remove some of these logs. It should tell me. So here, oh boy, didn't mean to double click that. Let's open up the code. ABC 234234. So I should be able to join that same game, 234234, join room. And now this is the player view. They can currently see the player from my internal development environment. This is the player of this client. If I move this across, we can actually see both the players are in sync. I'll click on this screen, move it around, go back to my game, move it around. And that's where we've got to for today. So onwards and upwards, I'm going to see if I can focus on improving the camera following. I also need to now make the water droplets be server side. Right now, the water droplets that we consume to get larger are client side, meaning each player has a different version of the truth. Their computer is randomly generating where the droplets are, and it's not telling the other player where the droplets are. So you can see we have two different versions of the truth. The game over here on the left has more droplets because it's been running for longer. The game here on the right has started spawning droplets on its own. But yeah, look, there's a lot of enhancements to come. This is the end of day one, mostly focusing on multiplayer. I did try to do some JSON queries from the blockchain, but I'm leaving that for another day because I wasn't getting too far with it. I've managed to bring in the JSON data, but I haven't worked out how to parse it correctly and to actually utilize the attributes. I've got to become familiar with that side of Unity and JSON manipulation, but that's I'll probably leave that for a few days from now. I want to do some fun game dev. All right, thanks for watching.